Hey guys. Alright, so today's lesson, we're going to continue lesson 2 of chapter 1, which was multiplying and dividing numbers. And we did multiplication last time, so today we're going to focus on division. Alright, so we're going to jump right into it. I'm going to give you guys a few problems. We'll go through exactly step by step together how to divide as a refresher. And then I'll have some practice for you to try on your own. Okay, so first I have a problem for you. 2,584 divided by 4. Now, the first thing I have to do is I have to set it up, which means I have to figure out which one is the dividend and which one's the divisor and where do they go. So I'm just going to set up my long division bracket here. Okay, and my hint for you in deciding how to set it up is that the first number goes last and the last number goes first. Okay, so what that means is in my division problem that I started with, the first number is going to go last, so it kind of goes inside or last when I'm writing it out. And the last number goes first, so it's going to go in the front. Okay, so now that I've done that, the question that I have to ask myself is 4 times what makes some of these numbers on the inside? Now, the first thing I'm going to look at is I would say to myself, 4 times what makes 2? I'm going to write that over to the side so you can see it. That's my question. 4 times what equals 2? Now, you should be thinking to yourself immediately, well, 4 is already bigger than 2, so 4 times no whole number makes 2. So that's kind of like a trick question, which means if the number that I underlined is smaller than the number in the front, it will not work. So I'm going to put a 0 placeholder there, because 4 times nothing will equal 2. All right, next I'm going to say 4 times what gets me closest to 25 without going over. I like to say it's like the Price is Right. I can't go over 25, but I can get as close as possible to it. So again, my thought I'm thinking to myself now is 4 times what gets me closest to 25. This is where the multiplication table I'm attaching is going to come in handy. So use that multiplication table. If you're not sure, you can look up your 4s and see which one gets you closest to 25. All right, the closest I should get is 6, and 4 times 6 makes 24. So notice how I wrote my answer to 4 times 6 right underneath the 25. And now I'm going to subtract. So I'm just kind of writing our steps over here on the side so that you can keep track. All right, so I'm going to subtract. 5 minus 4 makes 1, and 2 minus 2 makes 0. I don't really usually put a 0 here. If you want to, go ahead. All right, so I subtract and bring down the next number. All right, so I'm going to bring that 8 that was next in line down. Now 18 is my new number, and again I'm going to be thinking to myself, 4 times what gets me close to 18 without going over? So again, I'm thinking of those 4 facts, and I know that 4 times 4 makes 16, which is really close. Again, notice how I put my the number I'm going to multiply by at the top. And now I'm going to write 16 down below, because 4 times 4 made 16. I'm going to subtract. 8 minus 6 is 2. And 1 minus 1 is nothing. So again, I'm not going to write that 0. But next, after I subtract it, I need to bring down the next number. So I'm bringing that 4 down. And now I'm going to ask myself one last time. 4 times what gets me close to 24 without going over? Now I already did that exact problem right here. I see it. 4 times 6 was 24. So I'm going to put a 6 up at the top again. And 4 times 6 is 24. 24 minus 24 is 0, which means I have no remainder. Now, if I were to put this answer into a Google form, I ignore that 0 that's right out in front. That does not mean anything. My answer would just be 646. All right. Now we're going to try another one, and remember, the multiplication table is going to be your best friend on things like this. All right, so let's try a problem that's division, but it's going to be set up a slightly different way. It's going to look a little different, but it is exactly the same. All right, so my division problem this time looks like this. 1,540 over 44. So I'm going to make a little note for you guys that this is a fraction, but a fraction is a division problem. So anytime you see a fraction, it's really a division problem, kind of like disguised. So now I'm going to also take this and rearrange it. Now my hint from last time of the first number goes last and the last number goes first, that one is a little bit tricky here. But what I can show you instead is that I can rewrite this just like the first problem. So this division problem also looks like 1,540 divided by 44. And now that it looks like this, I can follow that rule of the first number goes last and the last number goes first. So I'm going to put the first number underneath and the last number out in front. All right, now I am ready to do this long division problem. One thing that I wanted to show you again is the way that I know which numbers to start with. So 44 times something has to go into this large number. Now remember, if I underline that first number, it's 1. 1 is smaller than 44, so nothing will work. Now I go to underline the next number with it, 15. 15 is still smaller than 44, so 44 times nothing will equal 15. Now I go to the next number. Now I'm large enough, 154. That's large enough that 44 times something will go into it. So here's a strategy. I'm going to put a strategy on the side. I'm going to use the strategy where I add up 44s a bunch of times until I get close to 154. On your multiplication table, you're not going to find 44 times 1 equals 44, 44 times 2. Our multiplication table is not large enough. So instead, I am going to just start adding them up. So 44 plus 44 equals 88. I'm going to add another 44. So far I've used 2 44s. And remember, I want to find out how many 44s it's going to take to get close to 154 without going over. All right, so now I'm adding on another 44. And 8 plus 4 makes 12. And carry the 1. And 8 plus 4 is 12. Plus 1 more is 13. All right. I just want to double check to see if I can add another 44 in there. All right. 4 plus 2 is 6. 3 plus 4 is 7. And 1 plus nothing is 1. Uh-oh, I went over, and remember I said it's like the Price is Right. I can't go over, but I want to get as close as I can. So that means that I used 1, 2, 3 to get as close as possible to 154. So at the top here, 44 times 3 got me closest to my answer, and my total was 132. Now from our steps above, I am going to subtract these two numbers that I have here, and then I'll bring down that last number at the end. All right, so 4 minus 2 is 2. 5 minus 3 is 2. And 1 minus 1 is 0. Now remember, I don't like to put the 0 there, but if you want a 0 in front, that's fine. I am going to follow my directions and bring the 0 down. And now my job is to figure out how many 44s go into 220 without going over. So I can come back to my list here that I've got. So far I had 1, 2, 3, 4 44s that made 176, but I want to keep going because I want to try to get to 222. So I'm just going to start at the top here with that last number I had, and I'm adding on another 44. All right, so 6 plus 4 is 10. Put the 0 down and carry the 1. 4 plus 7 is 11, plus 1 more makes 12. Put the 2 down and carry the 1. And 1 plus 1 makes 2. Oh my, that is the exact number I was looking for. So that means now I'm going to figure out how many 44s did I use total over here to make 220. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of them. So that means I used 5. And if you wanted to, we could even have done a guess and check, where I take the number 44 and I guess a number, like maybe 5. I multiply it out to see if it makes 220. And let's just double check that this works. 4 times 5 is 20. And 4 times 5 is 20. Plus 2 more makes 22. And there we go, it checks out. Alright, so I put the number 5 on the top, and 44 times 5 makes 220. I can't forget my last step, which is still to subtract. And I have no other numbers to bring down. So now my answer up at the top here, remember those zeros don't count. My answer is 35. Alright, we're going to try one last problem together, and this one is a little bit different. I'm giving you all different problems today. Okay, last problem. I'm going to actually go to the next page because I'm going to run out of room and I don't want you guys to miss seeing this one. Alright, last problem. Here we go. 5,413 divided by 16. Alright, now remember, setting it up. First number goes last goes first. Alright, so when I go to set this one up, first number goes underneath the division sign, last number goes out in front. Okay, now same rules apply, step by step. So I'm thinking 16 goes into this large number how many times? I'm going to start by underlining the 5. Now again, I notice 5 is smaller than 16, which means 16 times nothing will make it. Alright, so I'm going to go to now extend it. So now I'm thinking 54. Now 16 times something can get me close to 54, but I'm not sure what. So I can either add up my numbers, or I can do a guess and check. So guess and check would look like this. I'd say, all right, 16, let's try 16 times 2 and see what I get. I multiply it out, and I notice, okay, that's still small, so let's try a different number. 16 times 3, I'm just going to try. Now, if you like adding up your numbers, go for it. If you want to multiply and it's a little faster, that works too. Alright, so 6 times 3 is 18, and 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 more is 4. Alright, that's pretty close. I'm just going to try one more just to make sure. So I'm going to go with 16 times 4 then. 6 times 4 is 24, and 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 more is 6. Alright, I went over and I said I can't do that. So this one would be closest to 54. So I'm going to put a 3 on top, and 16 times 3 was 48. So I'm going to put the 48 underneath. I'm going to subtract and see what I have left over. I apologize, guys. Nora's being really fussy. Hold on. All right. So subtracting this. 4 minus 8 doesn't work. I can't do that, so I'm going to borrow from the 5 next door, and I'm going to turn that into a 14. Now 14 minus 8 is 6. 4 minus 4 is nothing, so I'm going to leave that, and then I'm going to bring down the next number in line. Alright, so I've got 61. Now the cool thing about this, when I did my guess and check over here, is I already kind of have the answers ready. Because now I'm thinking 16 times what gets me closest to 61 without going over. Right now, if I look over here, okay, well, 64 is pretty close, but it went over. I can't use it. So I'm back to the same number I just did, which means 16 times 3, again, is closest with 48. So 16 times 3 makes 48. I'm going to subtract again, and again in this situation, 1 minus 8 will not work, so I've got to borrow. I'm going to borrow from the 6 and turn it into a 5, and I'm going to put that extra 1 next to the 1 to make it 11. 11 minus 8 equals 3, and 5 minus 4 is 1. Alright, so now I'm down to bringing my last number at the top here. And I've got a 3. Alright, so now I'm thinking to myself, 16 times what gets me close to 133 without going over? Now, none of my numbers over here will work, so I'm going to try another one. I am going to do 16 times 5 and see what I get. 6 times 5 is 30. And 5 times 1 is 5. Plus 3 more is 8. Alright, getting closer, but still not quite. So I'm going to go up 2. So I'm going to do 16 times 7 to try it out. Just to go up, like increase my number a little faster. Alright, 6 times 7 is 42. Put the 2 down and carry the 4. And 7 times 1 is 7, plus 4 more makes 11. Getting closer. I'm going to try one more and see if I can get even closer to 133. Alright, so 6 times 8 is 48. And 8 times 1 is 8, plus 4 makes 12. Alright, I know that if I were to add 16 more to this, it would definitely go over 133. So I know that this is going to be my closest. So what I'm going to do is I am going to put an 8 at the top, because 16 times 8 gets me closest to 133, and the answer is 128 there. Alright, now I'm going to subtract, and there's one trick here. So subtracting, 3 minus 8 won't work. I'm going to borrow from the next number over. 13 minus 8 is 5. 2 minus 2 is 0, 1 minus 1 is 0. So I've got nothing left over, but I am not going to write remainder of 5. Here's what I'm going to do. I am actually going to put a decimal right here, which means instead of a remainder, I can find out what this number is by adding a 0 and bringing it down. Okay, I know you've learned this before in 5th grade, and it's probably been a while since you've done it. So, alright, so I have 50 left over now, and again, when I had a remainder, I put a decimal right after the number at the very top, which tells me that I can keep going by just adding a 0 and continuing. I've got the number 50 here, and I'm trying to figure out 16 times what gets me close to 50 without going over. Now again, off to the side here, I already have a bunch of numbers, and I can see which one is closest to 50 without going over, and that's this one again, 16 times 3. So I'm going to put a 3 at the top. I'm going to write the answer of 48 underneath. I'm going to subtract, and again I've got to borrow. 10 minus 8 is 2. 4 minus 4 is 0, so I'm done there. I still have a remainder, so I'm going to add another 0 and bring it down. Now I've got 20. All right, looking over here, all these numbers are bigger than 20, so that means 16 times 1 would get me closest. Okay, I'm going to subtract again. And 0 minus 6 doesn't work, so I'm going to borrow. 10 minus 6 is 4. 1 minus 1 is 0. Oh boy, I still have a remainder. I'm going to go back and add another 0 to the top and bring it down. All right, looking here, I have the answer of 32, that's pretty close, and 48, but 48 goes over, so I have to go with the one closest before it goes over. All right, so that means 16 times 2 gets me closest. The answer is 32. I'm going to subtract. Oh boy, I'm running out of space. This problem is so long. And I've got to borrow again. 10 minus 2 is 8. 3 minus 3 is 0. I still have a remainder, so one more time. Let's see if I can make it happen. I'm going to bring down the next number. It's 80. Now when I look over here, I see the number 80. That means I'm going to use the number 5 up at the top. And 16 times 5 makes 80. And I have 0 remainder left. That's what I was looking for. Now I know that was a lot of extra work and it was very long. But here we go. We have our answer of 338.3125. Guys, I am so sorry for Nora. Hold on one second. All right, sorry about that. Nora does not like that I'm working. Okay, so this one is the trickiest thing that you've got to practice this time. I'm going to have a few on your practice where you're going to have a remainder, and instead of writing a remainder, you are going to continue your work. I'm only going to give you a couple, but you will see them. All right, good luck on the practice, and email me if you have questions.